Hi, welcome to the Small Shed. This week I'm looking forward to an engagement that I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years or more. See you in a minute. Now, back in 2019, before the world went mad in many ways, I was at a model railway exhibition with my little layout, and somebody came up and asked if I wanted to exhibit it at the Worley exhibition, which is significant in a lot of ways. It's very local to me, and it is at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. It's arguably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the country. So it was a bit of an honour to get, if you like, even considered for it at that point. And that was that. And sure enough, I had documentation through in early 2020 inviting me to it. But of course, COVID came along and they had to cancel the exhibition. And that was 1 year down, if you like. And they said, well, it doesn't matter, we'll just roll it over to next year. And that was 2021. And again, towards the end of the year, they decided that there wasn't quite yet normality returning to the world. And so they cancelled it again, or postponed it again, I should say. And so it's been over 2 years now, and I had all the paperwork through again the other day, which gave the formal invite for it in November 2022. So the layout has been sitting in the bedroom upstairs for 2.5 years unopened. All of the buildings and stuff are up in the roof, and the stock hasn't had a run out at all. So I thought I'd do a quick this week just to run through all of the preparation, if you like, that I'm going to go through to make sure that this thing will at least run and be exhibition ready in about 4 or 5 weeks time. So the first thing I've got to do, and the thing I hate doing the most in this instance, is all the paperwork. Normally if you get a railway exhibition you get an invite, and sooner or later somebody will send you some details of where and when it is and how to get there, and they'll ask you for certain things that you need, like power and the value of your models for insurance purposes and all that sort of thing. But because this is a fairly substantial operation, and it is on the site at the NEC, which is a major exhibition centre which has its own rules, it's a lot more complicated, in as much as the build up and breakdown of the layout effectively, as far as the construction design and management regulations are concerned, which is a construction thing that I know well from my days working there, it effectively makes the exhibition hall a building site, and therefore subject to all sorts of restrictions. And you know, you've got to be wearing high vis and everything else like that. Also, getting in and out of the place is difficult, because you can't just drive onto the site, drive into the hall, because there would be chaos given the sheer number of layouts and people involved. And of course you're driving through an area where people are setting up exhibition layouts at the same time. So an exhibitor handbook, an exhibitor's manual, a hall plan, health and safety documents, layouts, final positioning, NEC site rules, site map of the building, and I don't know what this one is, exhibitor handy tips, parking and traffic. And I've got to go onto a website and sign up to book the car in at a certain time. So this is the bit probably I hate most of all in the whole thing, because I've just got to plough through acres and acres of paperwork. So we'll get on with this, and then the next thing I'm going to do is to go and dig out the locomotives, I think, first, because they're to hand, and we'll take them over to the Railway Club and give them a run and make sure that they're all working. see if it's on.
That's that one. Oh, this is probably from the MPD.
Next thing I want to do is to get the layout and put it up and run it for a bit. Now normally I do that in the conservatory, but that's a bit full of rubbish at the moment. But given that Hetty's gone outside temporarily while I start the final cycle cart put together, I've got a space at the moment that if I, without too much trouble, I can get the layout in here. It's 8 foot long, a couple of feet wide. If I put this stuff back away, out the way, I've got to clear it out the way in a day or two anyway, because the man's coming to service the boiler. So when I do that, I think we'll clear the decks and get the layout put up in the garage, I think. Well, that's got the main layout up and it's done the most important things I wanted to do. The biggest risk is that it doesn't work. Everything else is sort of frippery. So if it doesn't work, it's just pointless even taking it. And the problem I've got is that these point motors are no longer made, and I was half afraid that if they didn't work, I think I've got one spare, I'd be in trouble. But at the moment they are working. And the other thing is the wagon tippler, which has to tip coal into that hole which is outside the boiler house. That also, after a lot of messing around, is pretty much on the way to working. Right, that's got all the layout buildings on. Keep finding bits that I'd forgotten I'd made that in boxes, but I think that's pretty much everything there. There's a little bit of damage here and there, a little bit of stuff that time has shrunk the plastics and altered things, so I've got to go around and do a little bit of touching up in places like that where you can see the card underneath showing through, and on the end of that building there. A little bit of fettling on the back scenes. They really want redoing because they've got damp and there's a bit of crinkling on a couple of them, but I'm probably not going to bother on this instance because time is very much against me. But I'm happy that it all fits together and that there's no major significant damage, and the layout is looking pretty much as it did when I put it away. So all that's needed now, I think, is to just check out the lighting rig and the signage, and I'll just put the whole thing away carefully, ready for transporting it over to the NEC. Right, well, that's got the layout up and running. I'll spend a couple of days now just fettling the lighting, getting all the bits touched up, actually running stuff on it just to make sure that all the track has stayed where it should be and that there aren't any derailments, that sort of thing. But I think we're pretty much there. Get it loaded up, ready for Whalley. I may or may not do a video on the actual exhibition itself. It depends how busy I am at the time, and or whether there's any much I can do to get a decent sort of view there, because you're pretty much crammed into one of the halls there. It is quite a big exhibition, but there's an awful lot of stuff in there. So we'll see how we go on with that one, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be doing something different. Hope to see you then. Bye.